The Sweet 16 is upon us. Hopefully you guys had a profitable opening round. We're going to see if the chalk keeps on chalking on this week's Bet on It. The comment section is going to say, Kelly's tired from Vegas. She's defeated from all the chalk, and they would be absolutely correct. Shout out to the Westgate Superbook and everybody who came out and hung out with us that first opening round. I am a little beat up, guys. That was the second year in a row where a lot of the favorites came through. The second year in a row where no mid-majors have made it to the Sweet 16. But you know what that does mean? It makes for some good basketball. Kelly Stewart here, Gianni Corrales, Marco D'Angelo. I wanted to ask you guys' thoughts on that first round before we get into these Sweet 16 matchups. VR, I got to hang out with you and Little Jackpot on Thursday at the clubhouse at the Superbook, and we had a great time. Thursday was by far my best day of the weekend.
Yeah, honestly, it kind of went as expected. Granted, here's what happened this year that's a little bit different that I hear a lot of bettors talking about, and it's the favorites. But historically, we have to remember that when it comes to March Madness, favorites are usually who advances. Now, that doesn't mean they cover the spread. That's what the difference maker is. How are they doing ATS? Because we're always searching for Cinderella. Each and every March Madness, we're always looking for that. Who's Cinderella? Who's going to make it to the Final Four that's not, 1, 2, or 3 ranked team? And you're looking for that needle in the haystack. But we know that historically, that just really doesn't happen. Like, how many 8 seeds, 9 seeds, 10 seeds have ever cut down the net on Monday of National Championship Day? Pretty much none. So like the higher, better ranked team should advance, and that's usually what happens. But it's how do they do ATS? Because the spread becomes the great equalizer. And the difference maker, I think, was the favorites not just winning, but covering. Because bettors look for those dogs. Early in the tournament, we talked about that. Thursday and Friday, don't be afraid to bet favorites, because the mentality of the bettors is the opposite. They're coming in there looking for that dog, looking for that money line score. But then that changes. Come Saturday and Sunday, after the first 2 days, then they start changing back, looking towards the favorites. And that's when you should start seeing some of the dogs get the money. And we kind of didn't see that. And I think that's where it's a little bit tough to navigate this year. But overall, I'm happy with how things have progressed. Again, not the tout, but I gave out 25 bets in March Madness so far, 61%, close to a double-digit ROI. So far, so good. Sticking to what I did in college basketball, up over 70 units for the year. Going to follow my power ratings till we get to the national championship, and hopefully we give some winners for you guys today.
Even Marco came and hung out for just a tiny bit at the clubhouse. I know he was already gearing up for Luke Combs on Saturday, so he didn't want to overdo it. Plus, it was hot in there. I was getting tired. I didn't blame him for not wanting to hang out. But Marco, what was your synopsis of the round of 64 and, of course, the round of 32 from this past weekend?
Yeah, you forgot the other part. While you guys were in there partying, I was working at the Westgate. I was doing a radio show for 2 hours prior to me stopping by and saying hello. So, yeah, okay. I get a little bit of a pass there. You look at it, the first day, as you said, Kelly, was your best day, and we know why, because the Dogs went either 10-5-1 or 11-5, depending when you bet that South Florida game on Thursday. But after that, it was a nightmare. And if you talk to the bookmakers, it was not good for them as far as what happens. Everybody likes playing the money line parlays, okay, when you get to this time of the year. And all of the chalk was coming home. And there was a tweet going into Sunday's games with the favorite fest that we saw on Friday and Saturday. Favorites of 8 or more points were on a 45-1 straight up run. That's just, absolutely insane. I know when I talked to, John Murray at the Westgate and Chuck Esposito over at Stations Properties, Last year was a nightmare for them with all of the money line parlays, and it happened again this year. But they got saved with one team on Sunday, and that's the thing about when you look at the parlays. They only need one to take out the majority of the parlays. And that happened when Florida went down to Iowa. That's what, saved the books for sure off of a weekend that had parlays rolling over live to the games on Sunday. That saved them. And usually the books find a way to get saved. And that's why the books have all those big fancy neon lights out front. It's not because everybody's beating them. But it was a great weekend. We love watching March Madness. Great scene. The 2 days that I was at the Westgate, Thursday and Friday, doing the radio there, it's just an atmosphere like none other. And I say it all the time. If you've never done March Madness, it's a guy's trip. It's one of those bucket list trips. Come to Vegas, throw it in there. And as Kelly said, we even had Luke Combs throw in there for an added bonus, which, by the way, was a record at Allegiant Stadium. That was the biggest attendance since Allegiant Stadium opened up, was for the Luke Combs concert on Saturday. So, Kelly, you and I were part of history on Saturday.
It was loud in there. And I had some guy on Twitter was like, oh my God, you're supposed to be giving out plays for college basketball and you went to a concert. I'm like, hello, I was in the suite sweating out High Point. I just needed them to win for me. And they couldn't get it done past Arkansas. That's okay. We're going to get some wins this weekend. VR, I'm going to let you go first. We're going to go in chronological order. We're going to give out a best bet for Thursday and a best bet for Friday. Purdue, 7.5-point favorite here. And I kind of get where you're going in this one, but I want you to break it down for me.
All right. And again, this is a gambling show, and we got a lot of new viewers, a lot of new bettors. So we owe them the bottom line. And you have to know results to date. And so far, like I said, in college basketball, same thing like college football, following the power ratings when they align with what the betting syndicates are doing, and it's produced profit. Finishing number one in college football, NFL, and now in college basketball. I've been in top three since the first week of the season. And with that said, I've only released 5% plays in college basketball this entire year. 3 of them won. The only loser was North Carolina, up 19 with 6 minutes left. That still hasn't gotten off the show. I'm still pissed about that, or else we'd be perfect. But another one's coming in the Sweet 16. There's a line that's so off, and I'm bringing that up for this reason only. I haven't gotten to the window yet with Purdue, but I'm going to share this with you. I have a future on Purdue at about 25-1 to win the national championship. And if you could get better than 10-1 right now, which you can, get to the window and bet them. You may not cash that ticket, but they're going to give you some equity because Purdue is one of the most balanced and dangerous teams right now in this tournament. They're top 15 offense, top 15 defense, and that was against a top 10 schedule. So not only are they one of the most balanced teams, but they've done this against one of the toughest. In fact, it's the 7th toughest strength of schedule. And Purdue's just one of those non-sexy teams that get overlooked. Now, speaking of those money lines, I would not overlook those because, again, the spread becomes the great equalizer, but there's some value if you don't get too greedy. And we talked about that in last week's Steam Room and tied up a bunch of money line parlays. You can't get into those 6, 7, 8 money lines. Don't get greedy. If you find those 2 or 3 money line winners on a day like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where there's 16, 20 games, what have you, instead of looking for 3 or 4 more games to add to it so it pays more, just bet more on it. I always say that to bettors, like they're always looking for that 5th bet. You know, they have 4 and they're looking for that 5th, so it could be a 5-team parlay. What's wrong with a 4-team parlay that you just bet more on, that you were going to bet that was going to pay for the 5? So again, I don't promote parlays. I say stay away from parlays. They're negative EV. But with that said, if you are going to do it, because I know a lot of viewers bet for action, they do it for entertainment, they're not using sports betting as an investment, just don't tie a lot of them up. That's the key. Don't get too greedy and put up 6, 7, 8 parlays. Now, getting back to Purdue, why they're better than Texas? They're better than Texas on both sides of the ball. Texas is barely top 50 defensively, so that means Purdue is going to be able to score on them. Texas is also barely top 30 offensively, so they're going to have trouble against this top 15 defense in Purdue. And when I look at the strength of schedule, respectable at 20, but not like as tough as Purdue's. And then looking at how they come in, Purdue's running hot, man. I mean, it's a team that's now won 6 straight. Some thought there would be that letdown after beating Michigan. That didn't happen. In fact, they went out there and beat Queens by 30-plus points, covering that spread, and then beating the hot Miami team that everyone was on. Look out for Purdue. Again, I like them as the future. I like them on the money line a lot. At anything less than minus 300, they're a gift because they easily win this game 3 out of 4 times for sure. And I haven't gotten to the window, but I think at 7, I'll get there because my power rating has this about minus 8.5 for Purdue.
Yeah, VR, that was the one favorite I bet the other night was against the University of Texas. I had the Zags. Was not a fun one, but it's probably my fault. I think in the clubhouse at some point in time, I sold my soul to the gambling gods for VCU to come back and win that for me. And then I just wasn't allowed to win another game for the rest of eternity. We have a big promotion right now for not only VR, but also Marco. Right now, a 1-year all access pass is $19.99. We're going to give you guys $550 off, $14.59 using Ace 25 or Marco 25. That's going to get you another 25% off. That makes it under $1,100 for the year, less than $100 per month. And of course, if you are going to get on board with VR, you're going to get his blackjack course and 4 steam rooms a month. Wow. And of course, if you get on board with Marco, you're going to get a free months of Odds Logic. Ace 25, Marco 25. Now let's get into some more madness. And man, I was kicking myself for not betting Nebraska against Vanderbilt. I had the double TV and the Sweet going back and forth. Obviously I cared about High Point, but I wanted Vandy to go down for my futures bet on Iowa State. Now, that Nebraska team showed a lot of resilience. Then we get to the airport on Sunday, and here comes Iowa as a double-digit underdog, knocking out the 1 seed in all the money line parlays. And I'm going, I didn't bet Iowa. Why didn't I bet Iowa? What was I thinking? Well, let's be honest, what I was thinking. I wasn't sold on this Iowa team. They play so slow. They're so methodical. They got knocked out early in the Big Ten tournament. There wasn't anything they did against Clemson that necessarily impressed me. And there they go, knocking down Florida in a lower scoring game. And that is actually how you beat a team like Florida. And that's also how you beat a team like Nebraska, like Iowa did back on February 17th. They played that slow game in the 50s. They took away that 3-point shooting from Nebraska and were able to keep them contained. And then on the flip side, right after that Michigan game, Iowa maybe poised for a letdown, as Marco likes to say. Maybe they lose that game twice. Iowa takes Nebraska to overtime and then doesn't cover and loses by 9. That is the Iowa team that is in the back of my mind here. Yes, they can shoot the basketball, but their defense is not as good as advertised. I think they can easily be exploited here. And I like the Nebraska Cornhuskers minus 1.5 on Thursday to get the job done for us. Marco D'Angelo, there's another 1 seed that I need to go down. And that would be the Arizona Wildcats. Break down that game for us. Do we have a shot at maybe an outright underdog winner taking down a 1 seed?
I don't think so, Kelly. And hopefully we can duplicate last week's show. We went 4-0 with the plays last week here on Bet On It. So tune in. Hopefully we get this done again Thursday and Friday this week. And just like last week, I want to promote, I'll be back on Friday with Marco's Deli. I'll take a look at the Saturday games for you after we get the results from Thursday. So I'll be able to help you out some on Saturday as well. This one, Kelly, Arkansas and Arizona, when you look at it, first glance, you're going to see an Arkansas team that has scored 97 and 94 points in its 2 tournament games so far. And that's nothing new to Arkansas. This is a team that loves to go up and down the floor. And most people are going to look at this, and the knee-jerk reaction is going to be, wow, I got a team that likes to score in the 90s. They're getting 8 points. They're from the SEC, and they're going to remember Arizona and all the past failures of Arizona teams in the tournament. But here's the deal. First of all, this is not the same Arizona team that we've seen in the past. This is a team that is solid on both sides of the floor, defensively and offensively. And the problem with Arkansas is they don't play defense, okay? What John Calipari's done there in 2 years at Arkansas is nothing short of remarkable. And he pulled off winning the SEC tournament, and that really had to make him happy. A little, FU to the alumni of Kentucky that kind of forced him out of town. But this is a spot where they don't make stops. And I'm looking at Arizona. They've held 15 of their last 19 opponents to 41.5% shooting or less. They've held no one in the last 12 games has topped 80 points on them. In 7 of those last 12, they've held the opponent to under 70 points. This is contrasting styles. Arkansas is going to be frustrated when Arizona slows them down. And as far as Arizona goes, after facing the slower, deliberate style of Utah State in their last matchup, and Utah State, I know they're from the Mountain West, but they do play good defense, and they can slow it down. This is going to be a welcome sight for Arizona to see Arkansas wanting to go up and down the floor. When you're better than your opponent on both sides of the basketball, offensively and defensively, and the other team wants to play fast, that's great. Why? Because that gives you more possessions. And when you have an edge on both sides of the ball and you're getting more possessions, what's that mean? That's going to mean you're going to have more successful trips. More successful trips mean extending leads. I'm laying it here with Arizona, and I see them winning this one double-digit comfortably. The Cinderella, I don't want to call him a Cinderella, but nobody saw this coming from Arkansas in year 2 with John Calipari. The run ends here. Arizona moves on.
All right, let's move on to the Friday slate. VR, this is a game that kind of has my head in a pretzel. I've seen sharp guys on both sides of St. John's. Duke, this number's come down. Duke opened a 7.5-point favorite down to 6.5 now. I need Duke to go down. I know I mentioned Arizona to go down. I need Duke to go down too if I have any shot at cashing this futures ticket, or at least being able to guarantee myself a profit. St. John's has been really exciting, but do you think they can hang with the Blue Devils?
I really don't, Kel. And you're right. There are sharps on both sides of this matchup. I have not released the premium yet, so just want to make that disclaimer. So I haven't gotten to the window, but the blueprint is being drawn up as we speak. And I'm already leaning hard towards the Duke side. I can give you a free one right here. I have Duke as a future, a 5% on Duke to win it all. Just bottom line, they're the best team. Now, we know in sports that we don't have 5-7 game series. The cream doesn't always rise to the top. But still, after Duke got that scare by Siena and they weren't no longer the favorite, I had to step in and take advantage and release a future to my subscribers. So I am on Duke on a future. So I do like Duke here. Not hedging it at all. I will not be taking the points with St. John's. It's going to be either Duke or pass. And the bottom line is this. We saw St. John's play a really tough defense in Connecticut and get the best of them. Like that's going to be comparable of what they're going to be facing against Duke. The difference is Duke's not going to be held to 30% shooting like Connecticut was. St. John's just doesn't have the defense to shut Duke down like that. And I don't think St. John's going to have the success they did again. Like being able to shoot close to 50% from the field and have that many 56 possessions against Connecticut is difficult to do. I expected a regression from this team. We didn't see it in that last game, but they're so due. Like they're playing above their heads right now. And it's a team like Duke standing in front of you that brings them back down to reality. Duke is just that much better. Again, you're looking at one of the best defenses in all of college basketball and an offense that could score from the inside, from the outside. Again, it's the strength of schedule for Duke that gets the negativity, but they've offset that by only losing 2 games this entire season. So again, Duke's still the best team in college basketball. They should be favored over everyone over on a neutral court, and they're better on both sides of the ball, better on offense, better on defense, at least on paper. Tougher strengths of schedule is comparable, not the tougher strengths of schedule, very comparable. And I do think we're getting a discount on Duke because of the scares early. Like they didn't go in there and dominate. They didn't beat Siena by 40. They didn't win their second game by 30. And because of that, they look vulnerable. And that's exactly what you want from the best team in the country, where you're going to get value. Usually you wouldn't. You would have to be laying 8.5 in this spot with Duke. Instead, we may get them at -6 before this one tips off. And that at that point, I will be at the window with Duke. Even with my future, I'll still have more risk on them. I like Duke a lot.
All right, Marco D'Angelo, we're talking about teams that maybe are vulnerable. We're going to get into this Michigan game. Alabama just absolutely trounced Texas Tech. That was a bullet that I dodged. So things were looking up as I got to the Las Vegas airport. I obviously had a future on Texas Tech before JT Toppin got hurt. If you guys saw that from the Kelly and Murray show, you guys can still make fun of me for the rest of eternity. Marco, you like the favorite here. We're a bunch of chalk-eating weasels today on Bet On It. Tell me why you think Alabama is not going to cover against Michigan.
Well, Kelly, as you said, both teams are coming in this off of back-to-back blowouts in the first 2 rounds, but Alabama actually looks more impressive. And the reason being because, and I hate to say it, I didn't dodge that bullet with Texas Tech because of their blowout of Texas Tech. Yes, Michigan blew out St. Louis, but people don't look at the Atlantic 10 like they look at the Big 12 conference with Texas Tech. So that looked like a more impressive win for Alabama. And then again, just like I said in my breakdown of the other game with Arizona and Arkansas, you got a team that scores a ton of points. Here's an SEC team that likes to go up and down the floor in Alabama. Both of these teams are top 10 teams in offensive efficiency. But that's where the comparisons, the similarities stop. There's no comparison when you look at the two teams defensively. Michigan is also a top 10 defensive team, where Alabama, they're like 221, okay? They're not good there, and that's going to cost them in this game. Now, I know what people look at Michigan, and they can't get it out of their head. Even though they went 8-1 down the stretch, their last 9 games, straight up since they lost to Duke. Remember that game? It was a Saturday in late February. Big game. You know, you generally don't get a matchup like that. 2 power conferences and 2 heavyweights playing an out-of-conference game at that time. A lot of buildup. It was held on a neutral floor in Washington, and Duke took it to them and got the win. They dominated them defensively in that game. And it was from that point on that Michigan, even though they were winning their games, just didn't look like the same team. They were just doing enough to get by. They only went 2-7 against the spread on an 8-1 straight up record. But now that they got into the tournament, to me, it looks like they hit that light switch, so to speak. Okay, maybe they got bored during the regular season. This is the real deal now. And I think that defense of theirs is going to be the difference in this game against Alabama. And again, when you got a team that likes to play fast, you're going to get more possessions in the game, and more possessions to the team that has a decided edge is a benefit to me laying the points. And I know I knew Kelly would throw the chalk eating weasel phrase out there, but you know what? I got to play the games as I see them. And I see Michigan advancing, and I see Michigan having a comfortable lead here. Hit your foul shots down the lane, down the stretch, and this should be an easy 14 to 16 point win and cover the spread.
Well, Marco, if you can't beat them, join them. I'm giving out all chalk too on today's show. Before I get into my best bet for Friday night, Ace 25, Marco 25. Right now, it's almost $2,000 for an all-access pass. On sale for less than $1,500. We're going to give you guys an additional 25% off. Less than $1,100 for the year. Less than $100 per month. And, of course, you're going to get VR's Blackjack course, Steam Rooms, and with both, I misspoke earlier, both guys, you're going to get a free month to Odds Logic. If you guys have not checked out Odds Logic, oddslogic.com/Kelly in Vegas gets you a free week on me. Now, let's get into this Friday night game, which I'm Really glad that Iowa State got Friday night, the last night game of the Sweet 16, because there may be a shot they get Joshua Jefferson back. As you guys know, he got hurt against Tennessee State, was out the game previously there against Kentucky. And it took him a little while in that first half to start to gel against the Wildcats. And then they just blew it open in the second half. That is what Iowa State does. They exploit their opponents' weaknesses. And, well, Vols' weakness, 151st in effective field goal percentage. I don't know what the Cyclones have for a weakness. Not after seeing them over the last couple of weeks. Not much to exploit here outside of making their free throw. So I'm going to lay 4.5 here with the Cyclones. Yes, little asterisk. I do have a futures bet on them, but I do love one of the most experienced teams left in March. And how can we talk about Tennessee if we didn't talk about 14? He did cover 14-25 against the spread. Worst ATS record of any coach in the NCAA tournament, Mr. Rick Barnes. Give me the Cyclones -4.5 as my best bet for this week on the show. VR, Marco, is this our last show? I didn't discuss with you guys. Are we coming back?
We're back next week. Back next week. Preview Final Four. And Kelly, one other thing to mention to the listeners, if they can't swing, which is the best deal, that yearly package, we've got a short-term package that's a hell of a deal right now. You want to buy 3 days for $69. We'll give you 3 more days. That's 6 days for $69. All plays, includes a 5% play. Ace already told you he's got one. I'm going to have one as well Thursday or Friday in the first round. And it will take you, those 6 days will get you all the way through the rest of this week. Doesn't matter what day you buy, the 6 days is going to cover you all the way through the Elite Eight. We've got the NIT games. We've got NBA. We've got hockey. And with Ace, you could, who knows, you could have college baseball. You could have soccer. Who knows? MMA. You got everything. So pick that up if you can't afford the full year. That's another way to go.
Awesome stuff, Marco. VR, any parting thoughts before we leave our audience into this Sweet 16?
Yeah, again, if you're betting the tournament, and you don't have a subscription or smaller bankroll, don't overlook the Steam sheet every day. There's a ton of information, especially if you're up and coming a handicapper. Just using that sheet, looking at what games they're betting are in the accounts. Look at what the line was, what happened to it afterward, what happens later on. You'll learn so much about the market. And more importantly, if Sunday Steam sheet on it not only had the 5% in there for free because it was upgraded, I have to let it be known, and 3 other games that were upgraded to premiums. So whoever bought that for $15, whatever it was, $19, got the $35 5% play and 3 4% plays for free in there, just because if I upgrade a Steam play or something that's in the accounts, because I put them in right away early in the day. If later on I confirm it, then I just go back in and let them know this went out to subscribers. So those guys got all that information for just that $19. So don't overlook that, especially again, if you're looking to handicap your own stuff. Best of luck this weekend. Baseball's just around the corner. I told you about college football, college basketball, and next is MLB that we'll be using these nice little ratings for. So best of luck to you all this weekend, and go Duke. Go Duke.
All right. We will see you guys back here for the Final Four next Tuesday here on Bet On It. Good luck until then. Woo! Kelly needs it. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Don't we all?